this is the actual wording. Oftentimes we truncate that. But the first item is our home schools. And at the time, certainly as this was developed, there were several board members that felt like the home schools it was the first priority. It's the foundation. It's where we start. That every home school in our district should be of high quality. And certainly the last sentence of that, every student will be guaranteed an opportunity to attend a home school within proximity to where he or she lives. The key word here is proximity. Okay? And we know throughout our district that individuals, parents, families live closer to another school other than the school that they're assigned to. And because of the topography, the geography, where students live throughout our district, in order to be able to have appropriate number of students assigned to each of our schools for capacity utilization purposes, that's really the way we have to do it.
The board went through this long summer process, and then these were written up as new guiding principles. They weren't, we did have old guiding principles, which we obviously had, so we had them to look at, but these were written based on what the board did during that summer, and did take a lot more time to get together than we expected.
Yeah.
We went through a number of drafts, we went through lots of conversations to get to this point.
And from the state report that we got, and albeit we can argue the points of A through F and what are they, but we do have students who are going to multiple F schools in their career. So it just doesn't feel, and maybe this isn't the place for this, but you know, maximize student achievement, and I don't know. I know that if you looked at the kids in the school, you're going to have a bell curve. You know,
yeah.
High achiever, low achievers. I mean, that's just part of it. But
yeah. So I think part of the theory back when this was written, correct me if I'm wrong, was that if we did have a homeschool that was low achieving, particularly chronically low achieving, that needs to be our goal to lift that school up. So
right.
that we are then providing a quality education for all students.
And that lifting up does not include student assignment.
You mean changing where they go to school?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
It did not. So
Right.
we did not. What we were saying at the time was the homeschools are the basic place the kids are going to get their education, so we're going to put our best and first emphasis on the homeschools, not on other schools like magnets.
Right, right.
And so we need to make sure that they're the best they can be. And that's why homeschools were in the decision matrix the first thing we talked about too.
Yeah.
And that's why we had the long discussion in here about magnet schools and overcrowding and how much,
Yes.
what really is capacity and all of the things that we talked about for weeks, months, trying to figure out how to make this better. Well, you had raised before that I passed on to the committee that we want to have a guiding principle that you only attended one F school or something like that during your time in CMS. Is there some way to do something like that in our guiding principles that we would ensure that students didn't go through the whole system going to D or F schools?
And I just, you know, I sit here and I look at what our principles are, and then I see kids going to multiple F schools, and I just question whether we could meet our guiding principles if we're allowing that to happen.
If we're not willing to take a look at doing something different, we're going to get the same results. And you keep doing the same thing, why would we expect the result to be different if we keep doing the same thing? So I'm just for exploring the possibility of doing something different, to see if we can get a different result. And I don't know what that different looks like, I'm just saying.
Yeah.
In terms of other school districts that you know about, if they don't use homeschools as a base, what do they use?
They may use multiple schools as a base. So in other words, based off of an address, there may be 3 schools that a family can choose from, and then based off capacity, and depending on the time of the year, if that family, is brand new at a certain time of the year, then they may have a better chance of getting one of their 3. If they come in mid-year, then they may have a limited choice based off of capacity. But that's certainly one way to approach it. If you don't have a homeschool, then maybe a series of homeschools.
And it was after the choice plan that the homeschool really became the guarantee, right? Am I correct in that? There may have been prior to the desegregation plan.
Yeah, I think we've always had a homeschool guarantee. It is that with 2002, a couple of things happened. One was we eliminated the satellite attendance zones, so all zones were contiguous. And then number 2, eliminated race as a lever for equalizing schools. But those are the 2 fundamental changes that occur.
And so part of what I hear when people talk with me about this whole thing about student assignment is that we have basically resegregated the school district in terms of schools. So are you going to look at that when you do this student assignment plan? Are we going to try to come up with some way that we no longer have schools that are so, that they may not be out of whack with their home school neighborhood, right? They precisely may mirror their home school, but is that the school we want for the basic homeschooling district? And if it isn't, then what are we going to do to figure out a way to? So it seems to a lot of people that it's a no-brainer that you ought to be able to go to school near where you live. It seems to other people that you ought to be able to go to a school that you really think your child can learn something in. You don't need to be just blunt about it, but that's the other side of it. So.
And then there's a third thought, that your child ought to be able to go to school in a diverse population, which will introduce them to the world culture that they're going to be dealing with in the next session.
So how
do we get there?
Well,
yeah,
that one's a little harder to crack because I mean, the population in and of itself segregated itself.
yeah.
I mean,
well, that's how we bring
yeah.
segregated, is because our neighborhoods are
Yeah.
segregated. And you can jump up and down in the city and say, well, then build some affordable housing in neighborhoods where we don't normally live, where they don't normally exist, where diverse populations don't normally exist now. And that'll be a solution that might work over 10 years from now, but it doesn't solve the problem today. And we need, if they're looking to CMS to solve, to prepare the student for the future in terms of working with people who don't look like themselves. And that goes both ways.
sure.
It's not, just getting the minorities over to the majority or the majority, it's just everybody being able to work with everybody. Because that's what they're gonna see in the workplace. And if they don't ever get a chance to play with or work with or sit next to somebody that doesn't look like them, they're gonna be kind of like fish out of water when they go to work. And that's not the time to try to figure that out.
All right, so this is we're about to where we were in February. This is great discussion, though, because this is really the heart and soul of student assignment.
You say you weighted them, so they get, like homeschool gets higher weight,
Right,
travel
this is
distance
number
gets
one.
higher weight,
Yeah.
and C and.
That's exactly right.
Which
You
is
got
my
it.
issue, that diversity is so far down that it has no ability to affect anything.
And I think we even gave it a 2. So we actually even gave it a little extra bump, I believe, in our process. So, but clearly, through this process, the proximity in homeschools has the strongest weight.
Right. We're talking about different schools and the number of classrooms and the size of the common area and the
Yeah, I
students.
think that was like a
and trying to-
December conversation.
And trying to balance out, when you say the school's 140% overcrowded versus 120%, what does that really mean
What does that really
between those
mean?
two schools? And when you get into the stability and predictability aspect, I mean, that really, to me, kind of plays into understanding what is overcrowded for school A and what is overcrowded for school B. And how do you get that levelized definition in place? I mean, if we're going to go through this process every 6 years, then I think we need to understand.
Yeah, having a firm understanding of that would be
Yeah.
reasonable. Yeah.
Yeah.
And actually, the work that we did almost 8 or 9 months prior to the work we're doing now really did a great job of setting the stage for some of the issues that you're going to be tackling. Even though we didn't make any policy changes per se in our transfer policy, there was lots of good discussion on it. Absolutely.
I sure hope for putting it up front. We can't do it by ourselves, right?
Yeah, we sure can.
In fact, what we have to deal with is the problems in the problem society brings us. The way our neighborhoods are configured.
I do think that at some point, and I think at the retreat, we'll probably have this opportunity, but this is going through policy, this is what it is. At some point, we have to say, what do we want?
Yeah, right.
What's my agenda? What's your, individually, what's our agenda? And not just, this is what we have, how are we going to revise it? But what do we really want to see in this country? Now, we got to understand where we are and to be able to try to see where we're going. So,
I think it'll be helpful for me to look at what used to be.
Used to be.
And how we got from
Yeah.
here to here, and what the law says we can or can't do.
I think that when we understand where we are, only then can we say where we want to be. And where we want to be may not be these guiding principles precisely, or may not be this precise plan. And I think if it is, then I don't be surprised if it is. I'd be surprised if there aren't some things we want to change. But that's my own thinking about it. We need this background to move forward, but because we need to know where we are to start with, but we need to be able to move forward if we need to build a different direction. So here's the thing about the retreat that comes up in another month. The sooner we get all the documents that we need the board to have looked at, the better we'll be. So we don't want to send it out Monday before Tuesday board meeting.
Right.
Especially since that's Memorial Day. But it's got to be a couple of weeks ahead.